Good evening, ladies as well as gentlemen. I'm Papa Boris, and here I'm going to play some more Pillars of Eternity. We just lost our companions, and we're now trying to get down to Gilded Vale. But we're all alone, and there are actually characters who can pretty much solo clear the map at this point, which is fun to do, but I don't think my Barbarian is one of them, just because she doesn't have defenses for shit. Or very high constitution, although her natural barbaric constitution might be able to get her through some fights. It's also worth noting that when you come here, you're extremely tired, which dramatically affects your accuracy and your endurance. But I am not going to be fighting anything, so I'm not going to bother resting. But I do want to talk about the resting mechanic in this game. So when you're in a town, you can't rest. You have to rest at an inn. If you're out in the wilderness, you can rest by using camping supplies. The weird thing is that you can only carry 2 camping supplies on hard difficulty, or on Path of the Damned. On normal difficulty, you can carry 4, and if you play on story mode, then you can carry an unlimited amount. And I don't understand, like, so right now I can't pick up camping supplies. I don't understand why I can't do that, because, like, I have this stash, which, like, has an unlimited number of things. I'm carrying 10 different suits of armor on my person. Why can't I pick up a couple of firewood sticks? But the other thing is, like, mechanically, what purpose does it serve? I get that, you know, this maybe stops you from, like, rest spamming, but the number of camping supplies in the game is limited. There's no merchant that sells an unlimited number of these supplies. So I don't really know what problem they're trying to solve by having your party only able to carry so many. But anyway, we'll leave this corpse here with its camping supplies. And, you know, you can write down where the different camping supplies are in the world and come back and pick them up later. There's another place on this map that has more camping supplies, so we can always come back here if need be. So here I'm just trying to, you know, avoid monsters, because I don't really want to fight, especially not while I'm major fatigued. Notice there's also a oh shit, it's a wolf. There's also a plus sign in the upper left-hand corner of my character bar. That is an indicator that I've leveled up. And I'll, if you know you were going to try to clear this map, definitely make sure that you rest. The game kind of throws camping supplies at you here to encourage you to do that, to get rid of that fatigue.
How do you do?
This is a guy that will give you a quest. He and his friend went hunting, and his friend got killed by a bear, which was incredibly tragic. And you can investigate that a little bit later on and find out what really happened. I like the quests in this game. I guess you could say that they're a little bit predictable in the sense that, like, every single quest is...
Shall we get some shut-eye?
Somebody tells you to do something, you try to do the thing, upon attempting to do the thing you discover things are not what the person told you they were. But I still like it. It's still better than, like, collect 10 spider legs or whatever. Or, please deliver this letter to my friend Dingleberry. There's really no fetch quests, no gathering bullshit quests. Well, a little bit, but even when you have to do that, it actually makes sense.
Welcome to Gilded Vale.
So I like the quests a lot. So you arrive in Gilded Vale, and it turns out there's like a billion people hanging from a tree. And the reason for that is that there's this really big problem here in this land that you have traveled to, which is that people are being born with soulless babies. In this game, reincarnation's a thing.
Listen.
When you die, your soul passes on and then is eventually reborn somewhere else. But lately, every time a human baby is born, it's born without a soul. So that ends up being a big part of the game, is trying to figure out why that's happening and how to stop it.
It seems your arrival is 3 bells tolled.
And so in this particular village that you've arrived at, the local lord went pretty much crazy and is just like killing everybody whoever gives birth to a hollow-born child, because he thinks that the gods are mad and is trying to fix the problem by killing people, which makes a whole lot of sense. You can actually end up taking down the lord, and I'll probably do that later, although interestingly it doesn't actually make that much sense. Anyway, here is, or not, it doesn't make that much sense. It makes sense, but it doesn't actually have that much of a difference on the game. There we go. Okay, so here's our first companion, Alof. He's a bit of a weird one, and we're going to go ahead and help him out with some villagers. I don't think attacking him is a good idea, so you have a few different ways of getting them to back down. and then he joins your party. So this is a wizard, and wizards in this game are pretty good. They definitely have some combat-changing spells.
To get to know the neighbors.
Like I mentioned in the beginning, I don't particularly
I'm a wizard
like.
in Gwithan
Actually,
ruins.
have I mentioned that? I'm not sure if I did or not.
Dangerous
I
places
don't
during
actually
the
like
best
that
of
much,
times.
like the mechanic
Which
of
these are
spellcasting
not.
in D&D, at least in the earlier editions.
Trespass. And you survived?
Um,
In excellent.
okay, I'm sorry, trying to micromanage.
Indeed.
Da-da-da. Okay,
Begging your pardon. I'm afraid that was a
Okay.
matter of misunderstanding.
okay.
As should I.
There we
Excellent.
go. So he joins your party, finally. Anyway, what was I trying to say?
Yes.
Yes, I generally don't like spellcasting, which
shall.
is limited in how many times per day you do it. Because it's always like you wait for the perfect battle, the hardest battle of the day, but then like it comes and goes and you end up having to rest anyway and you like regret that you never used your thing and it's really annoying. But wizards are pretty good in this game because the spells do like have a pretty dramatic impact on the battles, so it's nice. Like it actually feels, you know, meaningful that you can only do something a certain number of times because it does make such a big difference. I'm less pleased in this game with druids and priests, which don't have quite as many like game-changing effects, or at least they don't feel that way to me. So we won't be using those companions, at least not for the long term. But the wizard, he's gonna be with us for the whole rest of the game. Wizards also have this pretty nifty ability, which I'll put on a hotkey here, the Arcane Assault. In a small area, it deals raw damage, and it dazes targets. Now, raw damage is the only kind of damage in this game that cannot be resisted. So it's pure damage regardless of the resistances of the enemy. The damage will come through. In addition, wizards in this game work kind of interestingly. This is actually really similar to 5th edition D&D, where you have a grimoire, and you put spells into it, and you can only cast spells of a certain level a certain number of times per day, but anytime that you do cast a spell of that level, you can pick any spell that is in your currently equipped grimoire. So if we look at Aloth here, for example, he can cast level 1 spells 3 times a day, but each time he does it, he gets to choose any one of these that he wants. These are actually mostly pretty shitty ones here, but I will, you know, hopefully acquire some more spells for him later and have some nicer selections here. So right now, what I'm interested in doing
How do you do?
is resting. There's a little quest here. Seems the cook has gone missing. What I want to do though is I want to rest. That is free, so that gets rid of my fatigue and my wound. Then there's some more story stuff, which I recommend reading because it's pretty nifty. Turns out one of the people hanging in the tree can actually talk to you, so we're gonna go talk to her.
Welcome.
But first, I would like to spend some time shopping. So, first things first, let's go ahead and sell off all of our crap. I'm gonna keep a couple of these hatchets, just in case anybody wants one later. It's a nice melee weapon, it gives deflection. I might end up using them on a rogue that I create here. Definitely gonna sell off all this armor. And this helm. Now, I'm not gonna worry about potions. So, I guess I can keep the potion of minor regeneration. It's a nice, just like healing potion I can keep. I am not going to worry about these torches or the tattered journal or these wolf hides. Ingredients I'll keep because some of this stuff is used like even when you're like upgrading your equipment. It's not all for food. I'm not going to worry about food, but I never know what is used in upgrading armors and weapons and what's not. So we'll just keep this unless I desperately need some money. And now let's go ahead and spend some cash. So one thing you can do in this game is you can recruit adventurers. Now, what? Oh shoot, hang on a second. I need to actually make this trade. So there we go, so we got 686 gold. No adventurers available? Do I need to like talk to her about it? I can use some reliable help. Okay, I guess I can't recruit them yet. Maybe you have to wait until... Oh, I think you have to be at level 2 before you can recruit the adventurers. Maybe that's the thing. So yeah, I will level her up in a moment. Let's just... The reason I'm not is that I think we're going to get another companion soon. And I believe that when you recruit a companion, their level matches yours. So... I'm gonna go over here and talk to the lady hanging in the tree. Let's actually get our formation right. The wizard should be near the back. I'll put her kind of up close to the front. There we go. And we'll talk to this animancer lady. It's a pretty long conversation, kind of a nifty one. I like it a lot. So basically, the story is that you're a watcher. Like, you basically, when you were out in that bivouac wind thing after the weird ritual and your companions died, your, like, former soul awoke.
Have you come here for me, dear? Or have you got me?
And you, like, gain the ability to see people's souls, and you have some old memories of yourself, so you're trying to figure out who you are and what's happening, and it's actually kind of dangerous. Anyway, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm a watcher. Nifty. Okay. Now let's talk to Adair here, or Adair.
17 and a half.
This guy's a fan favorite. He's a fighter. He's a nice, tanky person.
Here, saw you stare. Careful, friend.
And he'll join the party. He'll stick with us through the end. Okay. We just gotta talk to him here.
Pick the wrong. Then one after the
His backstory is pretty nifty, so definitely check him out. Let's travel together though. Blah blah blah.
Not sure. All right then.
Every companion also has a long-term quest, so that's another reason, you know, to care about who you have in your party. I like that this game, though, lets you manage your companions pretty well. Eventually, you end up unlocking a stronghold, and so any companion that you're not using, you can send back to the stronghold to just sit there and hang tight until such a time as you want to use him. In Baldur's Gate, whenever you got a 7th party member and your party was already filled at 6, it was super annoying because it was like, and when you make this person leave, they might leave forever, and they get pissy at you and all this stuff. But in this game, it's pretty chill about it, so you probably just want to take everyone you come across and then only use the ones that you care about. But anyway, we'll be using the fighter because he's a good tanky dude, so we'll talk about building him up in a moment. Now, let's go ahead and do our first level up here. So when you level up, like I said way back in the character creation video, you get 6 skill points, and my character will just be using them on lore for the purpose of dialogue options. Each time you put a point, or you increase a skill by using skill points, the number of skill points needed is increased by 1. So we can go from 2 to 3 spending 1 point, from 3 to 4 spending 2 points, and from 4 to 5 spending 3 points. Now notice, if I were to try to increase, say, mechanics, I go from 0 to 1 spending a point, 1 to 2 spending 2 points, and 2 to 3 spending 3 points. So you can see that if you want to try to hit a very high marker, eventually it ends up being quite the problem if you didn't start with any sort of a bonus in that skill. So like a +1 early on makes a pretty big difference. Anyhoodle, that's it for that. Now we're going to go ahead and pick a talent. So at every even level, you get to pick a talent. These are very similar to feats in 3rd and 4th edition D&D. And they, you know, modify your character in various ways. So there's class talents, which are the most fun because they affect your class abilities. And then everybody's got sort of a standard pool of offensive, defensive, and utility talents. So here, you can make your Carnage more accurate. Carnage is the ability that damages enemies that are near to the enemy that you hit. You can gain a new ability here, this Barbaric Blow, or you can improve your Frenzy. Now, the Barbarian's class talents at this point are not that great. Getting +2 Might and +2 Constitution, like an extra +2 to both of those on Frenzy, isn't that big of a deal. Accurate Carnage isn't that big of a deal either because Carnage increases its accuracy by 1 each level. So every time you level up, Carnage's accuracy automatically goes up by 1, so an extra +5 here becomes less and less significant the further in the game you go. It also doesn't help you hit the main target that you're attacking. And then Barbaric Blow seems nifty, getting an extra Pern counter ability, but this is basically just a regular attack. The only thing that's different about it is that the ability effect for Carnage is increased. You're more likely to get hit crits, and you can do bonus crit damage. But most of the time, it's just a regular old attack, and that's all the talent does. So we're going to go ahead and just keep it real simple here. We're going to take two-handed style for an extra 15% damage when using a two-handed weapon, which I'll be doing the entire game. So pretty simple. I actually don't think this is very good game design because it's just so good. Like, everybody wants to do damage, and just getting a flat damage bonus is pretty much better than anything else you can think of. So I feel like having these sort of limits how much variety people are going to play with. But if this isn't the game, I'm definitely going to pick it because other stuff just isn't as good. Like, sure, I could, you know, get 5 corrode damage reduction, or deal an extra 15% damage on every single attack I make for the rest of the game, which, by the way, also applies to Carnage, so it's just, you know, too good not to take. So we'll take that, that'll be our talent, and then we're done. Now let's talk a little bit about party building, because this game does it very, very well.
Greetings.
So now we can go here and hire adventurers. So what this allows you to do is it allows you to play the game with whatever party you want. So if you don't like the companions, if you want to play a, rogue and there's no rogue companion, you can do that. If you don't like how your companion's stats are, you can just make like a same exact character, but with, the stats that you want. It also lets you make a custom party so you can play with like 6 paladins if you want to, and I like that. In the original BioWare games, Baldur's Gate was limited to just companions you find, and Icewind Dale had a party of 6 that you made from the very beginning, and this game lets you play it however you want, which is cool. The disadvantage, of course, is that these companions don't have any sort of flair to them other than the voice acting for when you click on them to command them to do stuff. They don't banter with the other party members or anything like that. So I will be using companions, the NPC companions, for the banter, but early in the game, I mean, unless you're trying to challenge yourself, I do recommend making an adventurer because it'll be a while before we get to 6. For a big chunk of the early part of the game, you're only going to have a party size of 5. You meet a wizard, a warrior, as we have, then you meet a priest, and then you meet a chanter. But then you don't meet a 6th person until you get to Act 2. So this adventurer here, for the low price of 250 coppers, which eventually is going to be like nothing, just a drop in the bucket because you're going to be drowning in money, makes things a whole lot easier. On top of that, it spreads out the experience throughout the party, so your characters level up slower, which means, I believe, and I'm not sure about this, but I believe it means that you continue to gain experience from monsters for longer, because eventually, like, when you're fighting monsters that are way below your level, you stop getting experience from them, and that's just annoying. So this sort of delays when that happens. So I like this a lot. I'm a big fan of hiring a person here, but certainly you don't have to if you don't want to. So let's go ahead and do that in a moment. The other thing that you can do, oops, I don't know why I clicked out of that. Sorry. The other thing that you can do is you can actually re-roll the companions that you pick up. And this costs more the higher level the companion is. You can also re-roll your own character if for whatever reason you want to respec. And I think that's really cool. It's a great quality of life improvement. So the reason that you may want to do this is that a lot of these companions just like make pretty damn stupid choices. Like rapid recovery is kind of a shit talent, and I don't really want to have it. Fighters have this ability called constant recovery, which basically makes them regenerate endurance over time in battle, and this just like makes it happen a bit faster, but it's really not that good. So I'm not gonna keep this, and for that reason I want to re-roll my fighter. Now you can't change their level 1 abilities, unfortunately. So like Ader has that knockdown ability that my other fighter Kalisha had, the one who died for no reason. So you can't change that, but that's okay because it's a pretty darn good ability, so I'm fine with it. So he gets to keep that, and then we're just going to change what he did at the level 2 level up. Now for him, what I'm going to do is level up athletics a decent bit. I'm not sure exactly how I want to go, but having someone with good athletics in your party is nice for some scripted interactions. And then we're going to go for survival, which gives you a choice of bonuses when you rest out in the wilderness. Don't need mechanics, because he's not going to be the character in my party doing mechanics. Don't need lore, because I don't care about scrolls, and don't care about stealth. So it's going to be athletics and then survival. And now we get to pick a talent that's better than rapid recovery. Fighters get bonus knockdown, which is nice. You get to use knockdown 3 times per encounter rather than just 1, so it's definitely, handy. But I'm going to go ahead and keep it simple here. We're going to go ahead and just grab, I know this is kind of boring, we're going to grab two-handed style for him as well, so that he does more damage with two-handed weapons. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, Boris, didn't you say that this guy was a tank? Shouldn't he be using a shield? In this game, it's kind of, the Pillars of Eternity has a really tortured relationship with the concept of tanking. So on the one hand, there is engagement. If you engage an enemy and they walk away, then you hit them. But on the other hand, enemies will just do that if there's someone squishy in your back line that they can get to. So if you make like a super defensive person who can engage a lot of enemies and has super high defenses but like hits like a wet noodle, then enemies will just ignore him and go off and munch on your back line. So you need your tanks to have good damage output so that the monsters will actually feel threatened by them and stick to them, and then rely on high damage resistance armor and the naturally high endurance and health of the characters that you choose for the tanking role to be able to take the punishment. So we're going to give him a two-handed weapon, and we'll just do tons of damage. You can also go for two-weapon style with him and have dual wielding, which is totally fine. The main difference here is that when you go two-handed, you spend more time between attacks than when you go two-weapon style. So characters who really care about using abilities don't want to be two-handed. All fighters ever really do is knockdown and pretty much nothing else. So I'm going to have a character later in the game that we find who I'm more interested in using abilities with, who will be my dual wielder, so that she doesn't have to wait as long before she has to use an ability. So we'll go for two-handed style with him for that bonus damage. And now I kind of thinking I probably should have planned this better and not sold off all of my two-handed weapons. So he's actually not gonna have the right weapon for a time here. He will need to wait until we find something before we can give it to him. Let me actually put him at the front of the party.
I'm not expecting much.
Stick him at the front, stick the barbarian just behind. Wizard towards the back. There we go. And that's some party building. Now I'm also gonna hire another character. And this one, to keep it real simple, I'm just gonna go ahead and have it be a rogue. I have played melee rogues and they just go down really, really fast. So this rogue is gonna be a ranged rogue. Without thinking about it too much, we're gonna go ahead and do an elf, kind of a classic choice here. The elf is good because it lets you be wood elf. Wood elf have a +5 accuracy bonus against any enemy that's more than 4 meters away from them, which if you're using a bow is not that difficult of a distance to maintain. They also get a bonus to deflection and reflex, which is honestly like the icing on the cake. This would be an amazing ability if all it did was give +5 to accuracy against distant enemies. The fact that it gives you bonus defenses is just like ridiculous. So wood elves are very, very good. So we'll definitely do that. Then we'll take a rogue here. And rogues, actually we can stay here. So they have, their main thing is sneak attack. So they get bonus damage when an enemy is affected by any one of a bevy of conditions. And I believe it is 50% extra damage. Notice though that their endurance and their health are bad. Really, really bad. So that's why melee rogues is tempting. It's always tempting to play as a melee rogue because you get that deflection bonus when you make the enemy flanked. But it's just such a pain in the ass. I'd rather have the rogue be farther back. So you have a choice here. This is a really tough choice. I think it's one of the toughest first level choices in the game. So you can either go for Crippling Strike, which hobbles an enemy for 10 seconds. The hobbling is not that significant, but it turns on your sneak attack, and you can use it twice per encounter. Or you can go for Blinding Strike, which blinds the enemy, which is a much, much better debuff. Look at that. It lowers deflection by 20, and it reduces their accuracy by 25, so they become extremely ineffective in combat. But this is only once per encounter. So what do you care about more? Activating sneak attack or doing something that helps the party more? We'll go for Blinding Strike like the other rogue, but Crippling Strike's a very reasonable choice. Now for stats, we're gonna go ahead and dump Intellect. It says recommended for rogue, which is hilarious. I don't know why the fuck any rogue would ever want Intellect. You get that one ability at level 1 that has a duration, and that's it. Like, you never get another ability that has a duration. All the other rogues' abilities are like passive bonuses or stances, nothing with a duration, nothing with an area of effect. There is no reason to put Intellect on a rogue. I mean, I'm exaggerating. There are some abilities, you know, somewhere that have that, but it's just really, really stupid. So we're definitely going to dump that. It does mean that the blinding thing that we have will last only like 7.5 seconds instead of 10. And that's, I mean, do you feel those extra 2.5 seconds? Sure, I guess. Or I guess 6.5 instead of 10. Do you feel those 3.5 seconds? Sure. 3.5 seconds is a long time, but considering that this can give us like more damage output, it's definitely worth it. We're also going to dump Resolve because we don't really care about deflection, and really, -7 deflection is just not that big of a deal. Concentration doesn't really make much of a difference, and the -7 deflection to a back row character is not that significant. So we're going to go ahead and max out Might for damage, Dexterity for attack speed, and Perception for accuracy. And we actually have some points left over. We're going to put those into Constitution. Now the reason for that is simply that when the rogue does get hit, which the rogue will when somebody comes up and starts chewing on them, or somebody throws a fireball on the back lines, I'd rather have the rogue more health than more resolve. You could go the other way and, like, instead of putting those 5 points in Constitution, beef up your resolve back up, but 8 resolve, 3 resolve, if something's actually hitting you, it's gonna fucking hit you. And so you need to have the health to just make your life less miserable. You could siphon off a point from might, dexterity, and perception to max out constitution. I don't think that's actually worth it, though. But in theory, you could do that if you cared a whole lot about survivability and were willing to siphon off a little bit of damage. Anyway, that's going to be it for our stats. Now we have to pick a background. Weirdly, there is not a single one that starts with a bow. I don't know why. I would think that that would be a useful option to have. But for some reason, none of them start with a bow. There's a guy with 2 clubs here. We're going to go for, I guess, the most logical one here would be that, because he starts with 2 items, so it's an extra thing to sell. And might is a good stat for more damage. You could also say, well, I'd actually rather have... Is there a perception one in here? Yeah, there's one for perception, so you could get more accuracy there, but this is fine. So we'll go ahead and do that. For background, you could, of course, give this rogue a mechanics bonus. Rogues are the only class in the game that starts with a mechanic bonus of +2 naturally. So he actually is the best mechanist, but he's not going to stay in my party because I don't want to use the generic character throughout the whole game. So I'm not going to worry about that. I don't really know even what would matter. I guess we'll go for maybe, is there athletics and survival? That would be nice. Survival +2, sure, we'll go for survival +2, that's fine. So survival is kind of nifty because when you do rest out in the wilderness, you can get bonuses for it. And so having a higher survival gives you more bonuses to choose from. All right, what's this guy going to be? Is he going to be smooth?
What is it?
Ooh.
Now I am the leader of the group.
Wow, that's pretty That sounded...
there.
Okay, that's I like that a little bit more. Yeah, I like a little smooth man. I mean, he's an elf after all. What is his name? Well, how about Durmwood Man? There we go, Durmwood Man. That's definitely a very classic elf name, and he is good to go. So there's our level 1 elf. And the last thing here, do I have the money for it? I do not. I have 186 coppers. I want to reroll Aloth, and the reason for that is, while, first of all, I don't like this talent, Blast. It's just, I mean, it's sort of like the Barbarians thing, where when you hit an enemy, everybody in a small radius, every enemy in a small damage, or a small area takes some damage. The problem is that it's not a whole lot of damage. I mean, 610 is okay, especially considering it bypasses some of the damage resistance, but a lot of things have more than 5 damage resistance, so if they have like 10, this is really, really piddling. The Barbarian's Carnage, its damage is based on like the Barbarian's actual weapon damage, whereas this is just like a flat number. It's not even that great, so I don't really care about this. I want to get rid of it. More importantly, I want to change his skills because he's put everything into lore, and I actually would like him to be my party's mechanist, because since there's not going to be a rogue companion for a long time, somebody's got to do it, and it might as well be him, the person I pick up right at the beginning of the game. But I can't do that yet.
Hello.
Let's see what I can sell. Maybe I can sell something and reroll Aloth. If so, that's great. If not, yeah, I've already gotten rid of all the stuff. So, yeah, we'll just have to come back and do that later. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. We still haven't explored the inn. All right, let's loot everything here. Note, by the way, that if you're stealing, then that makes the thing look like a pair of hands. So you can still look in the container to see what's there, but if you take it out, then people get really, really angry at you. Excuse me. So, as long as you don't see that hand thing, shh, you're fine. So
This calls for a subtle touch.
oh geez. Oh yeah, we can take this book. Get 16 coppers for it. Yes. I can't steal from that because there's an inn guest right there, so he'll see me take it.
Easy does it.
So I'm gonna have to spend a lockpick here. I don't
Consider it
really
done.
care because there's plenty of lockpicks.
Give me a real challenge.
All right, there we go. There's some stuff to sell. I think I might be able to. Oh yeah, I think I might be able to recraft the wizard in my image. There's a dog here. You can pet the dog. I love that. I just love that you can just like pet the dog. That's. See, it's those little touches that tell you, you know, the designers really loved what they were doing. Okay, so now I found some things to sell. There's that. See that little symbol? That's stealing. I don't know. It looks like like a shell, like a Mario Kart shell. I don't know what exactly that is. Is that a wallet? There's nothing useful in there. It's just fruit.
Good day, stranger.
So let's see if we can get this party going. So we'll sell off the rapier. Get rid of these clothes. Ooh, 40 coppers. Nice. 10 for the hat. Very good. And we're gonna get rid of these books. So now I have 276. Bada boom, bada bing, bada ding dong ding. We can retrain Aloth. And so now we're gonna make him our mechanist. Excellent. And we get to pick another first level spell. One fun thing is you can actually play a melee wizard. So this is a pretty decent weapon. It's a spell that gives you a weapon. It's someone's weapon, and this weapon's a pretty darn good one. It's a reach weapon, deals tons of damage. It's exceptional. It heals you. Pretty sweet. I'm not going to be doing that, so I don't know why I'm talking about it. But yeah, for first level spells, they're not like super amazing, but Chill Fog is a fan favorite. It's an AoE that deals damage over time. It blinds enemies, which is nice for the rogue. And it's a pretty big radius. Now, the only problem is it's an AoE. When it says AoE, that means it hurts everybody. If it says faux AoE, that means it only hurts enemies. So this is a hurting everybody thing, so you have to be careful with it. But it's a pretty darn strong spell, so we're going to go ahead and pick that. Note, by the way, that you can actually learn spells through other means. So wizards are not limited in what spells they know, because when you beat other wizards in the game and you pick up their grimoires, you can, for a price, learn the spells that those wizards were using that you don't know. It's 100 coins per level of the spell. So you can eventually learn all the spells in theory, so it's not that big of a deal. Like, don't sweat it, you know, when you're picking your spells for the wizard. For our first talent, instead of taking that stupid blast, I'm going to take Marksman, which is, again, one of those talents that I don't think is very good game design, and I'd like to see it gone. But if it's going to be there, I'm going to take it, because getting +5 accuracy against distant enemies is pretty darn spectacular. So with, I think Aloth is a wood elf. He might be. I'm going to check. I believe that's what he is. So with his bonus, he's getting +5 racially, and then another +5, so it's like a +10 accuracy, which is a pretty big deal against a whole bevy of enemies, any that are farther away from him. Yeah, Aloth, you're a wood elf, are you not? Yes, he's a wood elf, just like my rogue, so he's getting, you know, +5 accuracy from being an elf, and +5 accuracy for being a marksman, so that can make a pretty big difference. So now we go into his grimoire, and it's weird, he's got a spell in here that he doesn't actually know. The reason for that is that I re-rolled him, so there's a spell copied in here that he doesn't know anymore because I retrained him. You can learn it by pressing this plus key. I don't have 100 copper, so I can't do that. This spell, however, is total garbage because all it does is it deals some damage and it lowers their accuracy for a bit, but it's melee range, which I'm literally never going to want. So I'm actually fine with just getting rid of it and forgetting it forever. We'll put Chill Fog in its place. Okay. Alright, that'll do it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and or subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.